Well, you're in the Forbidden Forest, which is a very different part of the tour, if you like. I mean, it's a bit like the tour gives you the comfort and the warmth and the security of Hogwarts, and you step in here and it's creepy and cold and spooky and definitely doesn't feel quite as safe, which is great. And it's a populated forest. There are things in here, and you kind of got to get to the other end. There's a hippogriff in here, Buckbeak is in here, and so you've got to get past him. Always best to bow, I've found. And we have other spiders. It's best you don't at this point look up, but there's more than one spider in here. And of course we have Aragog here, who is very quiet at the moment, but that doesn't mean he will be on the day anyone visits. Well, I think Aragog is one of the toughest because, the geometry of an eight-legged creature is pretty complicated. And recreating Aragog, because after all we're trying to recreate the actual characters using the original molds, original materials, everything. Because building a giant spider isn't the same as building Aragog. And so, we wanted Aragog himself. And that took a fair bit of research. It was 15 years ago we built him. So you're sort of going back, and a lot of it is people standing there scratching their heads going, well, what did we do? And, sort of looking at the things we have, and also because things have to survive in a practical sense on a tour, how you actually construct the machinery inside and all of that is all very different. So it's been an interesting technical exercise, but ultimately you just want the creatures to have exactly the flavour they had when you watched the movie. So, it's the same character. And in his case, it's got to convey the same sense of uncertainty. Well, I mean, every movie's different. I personally find that on the Potter films, there was a definite sort of 50-50. I mean, when you're making a movie, say, with children, having real things in front of them is a great help, for performance, atmosphere, the whole sense of being on set. There's huge numbers of things that digital creatures can do that a practical creature can't. We do have our hands tied by the laws of physics. I can't make a dragon fly. It would be a silly thing to attempt to do so. So digital has its place, but I do feel occasionally it tilts too far one way. It's very easy to work with digital things on set because they ain't there. Whereas practical mechanical things are very difficult to work with. They require a lot of organisation, a lot of control, a lot of cooperation. It's harder, without a shadow of a doubt. And I do think there are so many things digital does better. But what's great about something like the tour is we are literally going back and going, okay, 15 years ago we made it this way. It can be computer controlled so much easier now. But it still has to be a mechanical thing because we're in a real environment here. And that is actually quite a nice step into the past for us. I don't know, I mean, there will have been individual takes where you sort of say, okay, now move the spider, and nothing happens. Or you hear a squeak from behind the set as somebody says, we're trying to. That kind of thing happens all the time. We've had phoenixes practically fall off their perch. We've had werewolves that could walk and could act, but suddenly discovered they couldn't do it at the same time. Or you put them on a sloping forest floor and they sort of pirouetted once and disappeared with an almighty crash into the scenery. All manner of things. Everything you build, in practical terms, is a prototype. You don't know when you start out whether something's possible. If you put a man in a suit, say, you are putting a huge responsibility on that performer to actually be able to do what you think he should be able to do inside a very restrictive suit of armour, effectively. And you can discover that, no, actually, you're asking too much. It's not possible, But you don't know that until you try. So that kind of thing can occur. And now, of course, you're lucky because you can go, well, let's do it digitally, It's safer for the performer. Very often it's the reset. You find nowadays I'm actually happy to have digital blood spraying everywhere because take two happens immediately, not after 45 minutes of cleaning the setup. There's all manner of things where actually it works much more straightforwardly digitally. But I do miss some of the entertainment of mechanical things. But anything that's mechanical can break. It's as simple as that. You can shear a gear, something can tear. I remember, I've seen sort of very large characters crash to the ground. There's a moment where everyone goes, "Oh my God!" Then you proceed to, "Is he all right?" And then you proceed to, "Is anything broken?" We try to build things that survive. I don't believe in building things that are so delicate that it's not practically worth using. A lot depends where you're shooting. If you're in a controlled stage, you can build something that is more delicate than something you've got to get it halfway up a Welsh mountain at night in the rain and expect it to work. But all of that is part of the design process when you start. I think when we tried to do the werewolf in the third one, that proved impossible. That just proved, because it could have worked if we changed the design, but we didn't want to change the design. So it meant that we actually hit a barrier, which does happen, But I think other than that, most of the things we tackled, because you had the option of going, well, actually, for that scene, it can be CG. It's like, yes, we can build you a hippogriff that's surrounded by pumpkins and is something for Hermione to tug on and all of that. It looks great. But no, I can't build you a flying hippogriff because that really is being silly, So there's always a trade, and which is fine.